Hi, this is Bill Osborne, City Manager in Douglasville. In January of 2009, I presented from my perspective the top 10 events in Douglasville for calendar 2008. Well, another year has passed, and so what I'd like to do is to do my top 10 list for 2009. A couple of side notes before I begin. The following list does not include anything on city elections in 2009, just like I did not do those in 2008. I would point out that Councilman Charles Banks and Councilwoman Callie Burke Holmes completed their service to the citizens at the end of calendar 2009, and new council members Larry Yockey and Sam Davis have started their service. Also, Dennis McLean and LaShawn Danley have been sworn in to new 4-year terms. Now, as I go through this list, I'll start with number 10, and we'll work our way up to the top event of 2009. And if I were doing a top 11 list rather than a top 10 list, my number 11 would be the completion of the improvements at Chapel Hill Road at Douglas Boulevard. Okay, to start the countdown, number 10 is economic development. Then on the positive side, the city's development authority moved forward. In the spring, they employed Jamie Gilbert, someone who had 15 years in economic development service. He became the executive director, and Mr. Gilbert and the board did a number of things during 2009, including developing a strategic plan, initiating a program for business retention so that we could keep the jobs that we already have in Douglasville, working with several prospects, large and small, and beginning to lay the groundwork for a new industrial park in Douglasville. A key project for the City Development Authority was the establishment in Douglasville of a branch campus of Georgia Highlands College. On the negative side, for the second straight time, voters in Douglasville rejected the idea of the city having the ability to establish tax allocation district TADs. The same defeat occurred in Douglas County. Now, number 9, late in 2008, the city government issued a request for proposals to several firms that previously had determined to be qualified to design a new, larger conference center in downtown across Church Street from City Hall and the current conference center. And in the early months of 2009, city officials met more than once with the finalist to do the design work, and after a long and detailed process, Rabin Associates eventually was chosen to design this new facility. Now, the new conference center will contain approximately 40,000 square feet, including a ballroom of almost 7,700 square feet that can be divided into 5 sections. There'll be 3 small meeting rooms plus a boardroom. There will be a full-service kitchen, and attached to the facility will be a 300 vehicle parking garage that will serve the new conference center as well as the other parts of the downtown business community. And at this time, plans call for the parking garage to be built first, followed by the conference center. And in December of 2009, plans were completed by Rabin Associates. Construction will be staged, and we're looking forward to this project moving forward in 2010. And number 8 on my list was a change in police department leadership. Longtime City of Douglasville Police Chief Joe Whisenant retired effective June 30th. On the recommendation of Mayor Thompson, the City Council appointed Deputy Chief Chris Womack to be the new police chief in Douglasville, first new police chief in more than 25 years. Mr. Womack is a veteran of more than 20 years of service with the Douglasville Police Department in different positions. And prior to his appointment as police chief, he and another longtime officer, Gary Sparks, both had served as deputy chiefs. And under the reorganization plan approved after Mr. Womack became chief, Mr. Sparks is now the second in command, there being only one deputy chief. Now, if we move then to number 7 on the list, that's the Hunter Park renovation starting. Last year, number 6 on the list, as I mentioned earlier, was the decision to undertake the comprehensive renovation of Hunter Park. And at the start of of 2009. Plans were being developed by Breedlove Land Planning for a new cluster of ball fields, upgrade of some current ball fields, demolition of the Ike Owens building and the swimming pool, the location of a new tennis center and playgrounds, construction of sufficient parking for the park, and installation of the needed drainage facilities for all of this. And at the end of 2009, Breedlove had the plans ready to advertise for sealed bids for construction of all of this. Now, concerning the new community center, the city already had a contract with Lyman Davis and Dooley to design this new facility on the west side of the park, on the other side of the lake. And in the fall of 2009, the City Council did award to Benning Construction Company the contract to build this new facility, and work will be starting shortly in 2010. Now, most classes, ball games, other activities in Hunter Park had concluded by mid-fall. The City Parks and Recreation Department has moved its administrative offices to Davis Park. Still had a few events to take place in the park right at the end of the year. But basically now the park is closed, and much of it soon will be a construction zone with all of this work to be paid with funds from the city's Parks and Recreation component of the 2002 SPLOSH program. Now, I know all of us are looking forward to the reopening of Hunter Park, and especially the ball fields. The city does want to make sure that before we start play on the ball fields, that we have a good stand of grass. We want the grass to have one full growing season before we get back onto the fields. I can assure you that City TV in 2010 from time to time will provide updates on what's going on in Hunter Park so we can keep you abreast of when the reopening will occur. Now, although the dam at the main lake in Hunter Park is not part of the SPLOSH finance and changes that will be made, the city is having an analysis done of the dam, and there will be repairs made to the dam. This is a result of damage from the heavy rains in September, that we're working with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, Georgia Emergency Management Agency, GEMA, to make sure that the dam is repaired and is safe. Let me note another improvement in Hunter Park that's not part of the SPLOSH program, but certainly will be a big asset to the facilities that our citizens enjoy at the park, and that is the Douglasville Boys and Girls Club have a new teen center that's getting ready to be constructed. This organization has a long-term lease of some land in Hunter Park, serves more than 500 children and young people. And in 2009, the City of Douglasville submitted to the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, DCA, a community development block grant application to try to obtain a grant to help pay for this new teen center. And we were delighted that DCA awarded a $500,000 grant to be used to help fund this project. The Boys and Girls Club are in the process of raising the additional amount needed for the construction of the teen center. And when you look at all of this combined, certainly Hunter Park will be much improved in the months ahead. Now, number 6 on my list is the economy. Now, because of the anticipated decline in city revenues and the expectation of higher cost on operating city government, we decreased the size of our workforce of city government. Basically, we had about a dozen vacant positions that we did not fund for the current fiscal year that started July 1. And also on July 1 and then later on into the fall, we actually eliminated approximately a dozen positions that were filled we did a reduction in force so that we could come in with our budget from a personnel standpoint. And we were very fortunate on one situation, and that is Douglasville was one of only a small number of local governments statewide that the federal government with federal economic stimulus funds did provide some money for public safety to the city of Douglasville, namely so that we were able to take 4 police officer positions that otherwise we might have had to look at eliminating, and we will be able for 3 years to fund these with federal funds. The only requirement on the city is that after that 3 years, we have to keep these officers on the payroll for at least another 1 year. And so we're delighted with that grant of almost $1 million. Now, a number of the positions in city government that we deleted were in our Development Services Department. And as you know, there has been, there still is, a dramatic turndown in new construction, both residential and non-residential. Of course, like other communities in the metro area, we've been growing a lot of new construction, which required us to have the staffing to handle that. And then when the bottom fell out, the employees that we had, like many other employees connected with the construction industry, there simply was not the need for those jobs. And to conclude these comments on the economy and its impact on city government, let me point out that we continue in city government to be under an almost total freeze on creating new positions, filling vacant positions other than in public safety. Salary ranges remain frozen. We are maintaining tight control on departmental budgets, and we still are doing that. Number 5 on my list was the Douglas County Jail. On November the 9th, in a very narrow decision, special countywide election, Douglas County voters approved a SPLOST referendum to provide funds to build a new jail and other facilities for the sheriff's office. These will be built inside the city of Douglasville on land owned by Douglas County government between the courthouse on Hospital Drive and Interstate 20. And this is a major event in Douglasville for several reasons. First, the Sheriff's Department and the Douglas County Jail, of course, serve citizens throughout the county. City prisoners are held in the county jail, and so when you have crowded conditions in the Douglas County Jail, that's impacting the city government in terms of the prisoners that we have. Also, if you think back a couple of years ago, the city actively worked to defeat the SPLOST, in which the county was talking about building 2 tall towers at the current site in downtown Douglasville. And we did not want to see the expansion of the jail on that site. The county did buy some land, as I say, between the current county courthouse and I-20. And so there were many voters near the downtown area that voted in favor of this SPLOST because they knew that that meant a relocation of the jail. And just as construction of the city's new public safety building will, we believe, mean more efficiency and effectiveness by the city police department, I think all of us can expect that the sheriff's department, including the jail, will be, it'll be good for the employees and for the public. Now, number 4 was the start of construction on our public safety and municipal court building. Last year was very easy to select as number 1 the fact that voters had approved the funds to build the new facility. Now the building is getting underway, and so it still has a high ranking, in my opinion, and I've ranked it at number 4. Now the year started with city government having a meeting with more than a dozen firms who had responded to the city's request for qualifications and who did meet our design build services qualification requirements. And following that meeting, the city issued a request for proposals. This turned out to be a long, involved, complex process, but however, when the process concluded on June the 15th, the City Council did vote for New South Construction Company to be the design build contractor for this project, to complete the design work, the architectural engineering plans for the building, and now to actually build it. And much of the second half of 2009 was spent with New South, working closely with our police department, our development services department, the mayor's office, the courts, to finalize plans for the 70,000 square foot building, an 18,000 auxiliary building, the landscaping, various other aspects of this project, as well as the furniture, furnishings and fixtures, and lining up all the subcontractors that would be involved. Finally, all of this work was completed, and we were able to hold groundbreaking ceremonies on the site on December 1. Now that site, as most of you probably know, is about a half a mile south of Interstate 20 on Fairman Road, Georgia Highway 92 on the west side of the road, immediately north of Hillcrest Drive that goes out to the bowling alley. When you go by the site, you'll see a sign, but more importantly, you'll see evidence of construction of this building. We hope by the end of calendar 2010 that we'll be close to the police department and municipal court occupying the structure. It'll be a 2-story brick building, and we think it will serve our needs for the next 20 years. And except for the downtown precinct to provide a police presence in the central business district, rather than being scattered in 7 buildings, we will have everybody consolidated under one roof. And Chief Womack, the city's elected officials, and myself firmly believe these new facilities will improve our ability to provide high-quality public safety services, and without our citizens having to go first to one building and then another in the process. Well, now we move to number 3. Number 3 on my list is the coming to Douglasville of a unit of the University System of Georgia. The Board of Regents of the University System, the City of Douglasville government, the city's Development Authority late in 2009 signed several agreements to finalize plans for the establishment of a branch of the university system in our community. Georgia Highlands College, a 2-year institution whose main campus is in Rome, will have a branch in Douglasville. The University of West Georgia, which of course is in Carrollton, also will have a branch here under the arrangements that have been consummated. Frankly, I don't think it is possible to underestimate the importance of Douglasville having these 2 higher education institutions here, with campuses of West Georgia Technical College and Mercer University already in Douglasville. I believe that with Georgia Highlands, University of West Georgia coming, that this really gives us wonderful educational opportunities for our citizens, and also will be important to future economic development opportunities in our community. We were able to work out with the Douglas County School System in Georgia Highlands for them to open in the fall of 2009 with some modular units on the campus of Chapel Hill High School. And work is now underway to transform the former Cub Foods store site on Stewart Parkway to be the campus for Georgia Highlands and University of West Georgia, their local campuses. This will be the site where classes will be held for the next several years. A lease has been signed with the company that owns that property. Now eventually, the Board of Regents will be building a permanent campus on some 50 acres of land being provided by the City of Douglasville. Currently, we're looking at the property that the city owns on Bright Star Road. Now, kind of as a side note, if you have an interest in finding out more about Georgia Highlands College and its schedule and arrangements, we're showing on the screen at this time a way for you to get in touch with Georgia Highlands. Just in closing, I'm hopeful that we're talking about just a matter of weeks before the former Cub Food sites will be renovated, and Georgia Highlands then can contemplate when they move into that new space. Now for number 2. For the past 10 years, the City of Douglasville has been working to obtain the necessary funding and approvals from the Georgia Department of Transportation, GDOT, and the Federal Highway Administration, FHWA, for relocation of Georgia Highway 92 through the middle of the city. The city government has spent more than $2.5 million on preliminary plans and environmental aspects of this roadway. We've been able to get Highway 92 included on GDOT's list of projects to be done at some point. We've been able to get it included in the Atlanta Regional Commission's TIP program, Transportation Improvement Program, but the funding was nowhere in sight. Now, the situation changed quickly and dramatically early in the summer of 2009 when Congressman Scott, David Scott, took the initiative to solidify federal funding and to forcefully encourage GDOT, FHWA, and the city government to move forward on this some $80 million project. One of the first things that we did was to have a meeting on August 1st that really kick-started everything. But as many of you know, the Georgia Highway 92 project actually goes from the northern end of the city limits and bypasses to the east, the downtown area, and ends up linking onto Current 92, kind of right at the top of the hill where Chick-fil-A is located. It does include plans for the city's first railroad grade separation. It would be an underpass that would go underneath not only the Norfolk Southern Railroad tracks, but also Broad Street and Strickland Street. Now, the actual title, though, of my event number 2 is Georgia Highway 92, because I want to include in this the completion of the recent project by GDOT to build the wider, longer, higher bridge over I-20, and also to do the road widening from south of I-20 up to near Chick-fil-A. And, you know, this gives us an improved traffic artery, a safer interchange there at I-20 and Highway 92. I know it's been really tough on especially the businesses located on Fairburn Road and some of the adjacent streets. Some of them were forced to close, but I think in the long run that we do have the opportunity of this becoming once again a vibrant commercial artery, and we certainly appreciate what GDOT and Federal Highway did in making this major improvement to our road system. And actually what we're talking about with the Highway 92 relocation project would just go northward from there, go to the east, skirting, coming east of the old mill on Broad Street, and then reconnecting to Highway 92 up just south of where the fire station is there on Dallas Highway. Now, Congressman Scott's leadership and the community's concerns, as I mentioned earlier, really came together on August the 1st when we had a town hall meeting at the Downtown Conference Center. More than 300 people were in attendance. Quickly following that meeting, Congressman's office worked with GDOT in the city to expedite the public involvement process. A number of community meetings were held, and then this culminated in a public information open house on October 27th at Stewart Middle School. Even though it was a rainy night, we had more than 420 people who came to this with overwhelming support for the project. Now, at this time, the city's consultants are working with GDOT and Federal Highway to complete the necessary steps before we have the final public hearing, which is expected to be held sometime in the spring of 2010. Shortly thereafter, it's expected that GDOT will take over this project. The city will have completed its part so that GDOT can proceed with right-of-way acquisition and preparation of final engineering plans. And while this is going on, Congressman Scott will be making sure the federal funds are in place for this project. And although our primary interest in Highway 92, of course, has been that part within the city limits, that we have had to work with Paulding County and Douglas County because federal requirements on what's known as logical termini, the logical termination of this project was determined to be Nebo Road up in Hiram in Paulding County. Now, frankly, I don't think we can underestimate Congressman Scott's personal involvement and commitment to this project, that while the city and its consultants had completed the public involvement process in record time, while we did that in record time, and we've been told by some of the GDOT staff members we kind of raised the bar this fall in what we did, we all recognize that Congressman Scott was the key to stopping what seemed to be an endless search for funding and approvals, and we now feel that we're on our way to actually having this project implemented, though it still is several years before any of us will be able to drive on the new road. But when the project is completed, it will be a safer and quicker way of getting through Douglasville for people headed to I-20 or to the mall area from Cobb and Paulding counties. It will be safer in the downtown area because, as all of you know, tractor-trailer trucks are prone to get stuck on the crossing over the Norfolk Southern tracks. There will be a grade level crossing to the west of the current Highway 92 crossing that will let people from the north side get to the downtown area easily, and vice versa. And that will be a new crossing there at McCarley Street at O'Neill Plaza. Now, the top event in the city of Douglasville in 2009, in my opinion, occurred very unexpectedly and suddenly in September when heavy rains and the resultant high water hit Douglasville and Douglas County, flooding many areas, washing away roads, damaging a lot of property, and sadly taking the lives of 9 people. Rain gauges recorded almost unbelievable amounts of rainfall in a short amount of time. As results, we know water levels rose in streams to record-breaking levels. Sections of road disappeared beneath the waters. Vehicles and the occupants were swept into these streams. Dozens of people were rescued, but sadly, 9 people died. And all of this started on the night of Sunday, September the 19th, and went through the remainder of that night. And the next day, of course, in the afternoon, Sweetwater Creek began to rise to record-breaking levels in Cobb County and then on down into Douglas County. Even a section of I-20 was submerged, as we know. And when the initial assessments were made, some gauges had recorded more than 23 inches of rainfall in a 24-hour period. In the city, the flooding forced us to close Chapel Hill Road, Slater Mill Road, Presley Mill Road, Creekwood Drive, Cindy Drive. Some of those were closed for a few days. A couple of them are still closed. And now looking back over this record-breaking event in Douglasville, I'm sure each of us has a story to tell. There were a number of tragic happenings. There were many heroes. The Douglasville Police Department, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office and Fire Department, 911 Emergency Management, City Maintenance Department, many private citizens. Yes, this was a case of the worst of times, bringing out the best in people. Yes, there were neighbors helping neighbors, but there were also strangers helping strangers. The state government and the federal government responded promptly by sending in personnel and appropriate agencies. These men and women came to Douglasville, Douglas County, and they stayed to work with local governments, local organizations, service groups and individuals, church groups, community groups, various agencies. Everyone was working together to try to deal with the aftermath of certainly a very disastrous rainfall and flooding here in our community. And with more than 150 roads closed countywide, and each of those, whether in the city or in the unincorporated area, certainly caused inconvenience, traffic problems, and public safety issues. Fortunately, Chapel Hill Road was able to be reopened in just a few days under emergency provisions that were in effect with FEMA and GEMA at that time. So was Rose Avenue. Culvert problems on Timber Lane Drive and Parkway Circle South were fixed relatively soon. Took a little longer, but then we got Presley Mill, Slater Mill opened in mid-November. Around the 1st of January, Cindy Drive and Arbor Parkway were back to normal. That leaves only Creekwood Drive, and we hope this street will reopen to traffic by the end of February. Fowlerfield Park still is to be rebuilt. The dam in Hunter Park still has to be fixed. Tremendous amount of debris, as you can imagine, and you probably have seen along some of the stream banks. This needs to be removed. The city is working to obtain federal funds so fallen trees and tree limbs on private property can be removed in order to prevent future heavy rains from resulting in adjacent areas being flooded, because what this debris has done, of course, is the blockages have created new dams on these streams, and we don't want to see problems occurring in the future, so we're trying to work on that. Well, that's my top 10 list for 2009. Compare my list with your list, if you will. In closing, I want to say thank you for watching this edition of On the Agenda. This is City Manager Bill Osmond signing off. Hope my review of 2009's top events have been enlightening and brought back some memories for you. And I hope that you have a wonderful 2010. See you next time.